Only difference is he didn't give me a back rub like he did in 2012. That was a good back rub. I like that back rub.
Is there a better back rub that you can get than one from a major esports commentator? Hello everybody and welcome to the second episode of The High Ground. This is a casual discussion-based esports podcast that aims to uncover the motivations and inspirations behind some of the community's most influential figures. My name is Moleman. I'm a former and current Dota community content creator, and I've been playing Dota since Warcraft 3.
Hey everybody, I am Gordo. You may know me from working in the background for The High Ground Episode 1, casting Collegiate League of Legends, and several other failed content creation ventures. I'm also a lifelong fan of esports, which coincidentally is what we'll be talking about today.
Our guest today is a veteran of the esports world, as well as the writer for the Dota 2 Standard Builds project. Welcome to the podcast, Torte de Lini.
Hi, thanks for the intro. Glad to be here.
All right, so Torte de Lini, the very first thing that I want to start with is, I know you've answered this in some of your AMAs, but I know for a fact that our audience would like to know, those that have not read it, about the origin of your name.
Oh, yeah, I used to play a game called kingdomofloathing.com. I think it's still around. It's a pretty good game. Pretty hilarious, very well written, and it's sort of like a web browser, time-based RPG game. And they have different classes. You know, they're not the traditional warrior, mage, and healer. They're like a seal clubber for warrior, or a sorcerer for a mage or sorcerer. And then there is a necromancer class called Apostomancer. And that was my class. I played Saucer and Apostomancer, and then in theme with the class, I named myself Captain Tortellini, or Tortellini as it is known now. And that was my name.
I know very well. I have an accordion thief, level 20.
Oh geez, this guy
I never
plays.
Went back. Actually, I sold. I bought a Mr. Store thingamajig. I forget the name of the item. It's the one that you can sell on online and get like 10 million meat. So the whole game has been made like obsolete for me ever since I bought that. Like everything is just a little bit too easy. I now have about 12 million meat in my possession.
Did you play PvP at all? That was the hardcore shit right there.
I dipped my toe into it. I dipped my toe into that, as well as any of the dungeons, if you'd like to call them that.
As somebody who has no idea what any of this is, what is the meat to dollars ratio? Like, how much is 10 million meat? Is that a little? Is that a lot?
It's pretty good.
You know what? Actually, I'm gonna double check right now. I have Kingdom of Loathing open.
Do you? You know you log in and everything? I haven't logged in.
Yeah,
God knows how long.
I've got my login.
After a while, you just stopped. After a while, you just played, and then the rest of the time, you just played on. You listened to mostly the Kingdom of Loathing radio, which is what I did most of the time. I just hung out in the chat and listened to these user radios, which was it's not innovative, but it was very unique for the community.
I found it here. You can buy a Mr. accessory for $10.
Oh yeah,
and then you can sell that for somewhere around
Mr.
9
accessory.
or 10 million meat, something ridiculous.
Really? Holy shit.
Yeah. And at that point, you can buy whatever you want, because 9 or 10 million meat will supply you forever. Like if I go to the Mall of Loathing right here and I type in Mr.
Oh, you had to donate. That's right. Oh yeah, I remember now. Those were the cool kids, the people who donated 10 every month. I always wanted to be like them.
I've Google image searched this. This looks way shittier than I ever.
It's super shitty. It's super shitty.
I love it so much. It's the best MMO I've ever played.
It's just absurd beyond belief. That's what makes it so hilarious, because it's just absurd. So like the stick figure characters and everything, it's so off-putting. But then when you play, the text is just so hilariously absurd, and it really keeps you hooked into playing.
I'm looking at this right now. The lowest price that you can purchase a Mr. Accessory for is 26 million meat. So I think the price has gone up significantly since, I think, sophomore year of high school.
Can't you like donate $10, right? So that would mean like it's 26 million for every $10. That would be right. Like the currency
26
exchange.
million for every $10. That is enough meat to supply you for the rest of your life, if you'd like.
Meat inflation has affected us all.
Yeah, meat inflation is serious business here. I commend you for playing, though. I wish I kept up, but I did not.
Especially after talking about your name and I guess the origin of it. How many people do you get that ask you about your name?
Like specifically, there's basically two classes of people. One is people who ask if I'm Italian, and then the second class is people who say, do you like Tortellini?
Italian?
Yeah, they always say, are you Italian? They start speaking Italian. I go, no. I'm not Italian.
Like real Italian or like Family Guy Italian, like racist
I mean,
Italian?
New York Italian or whatever Italian or traditional Italian. I'm not Italian. I just like tortellini. Well, I didn't particularly care for it. My mother served a lot of frozen tortellini when I was a kid, and yeah, it just sort of came up at the time when I was thinking of a name.
I guess a little bit past your name. Tell me a little bit. You have a lot of information on some of your AMAs on Reddit. For those that are unfamiliar, Torte de Lini has done a couple of AMAs on Reddit. Please just tell me a little bit about your history with esports, a little bit about when you started and your journey up until now.
Oh boy, that was a long time ago, and it's kind of weird to think how long ago it was, because I remember like it was not yesterday. It was a little too cliche. I got into esports when I got into university, so that was 7 years ago. 2010, mid 2010, I got into esports through the start of StarCraft 2. I think it was when it got into beta, a little bit after beta, because I think it launched in July 2010 or something. And I got
Brood War?
No, I didn't play Brood War. I was into Warcraft 3. So I got into esports. So I played a ladder game with someone, and you know, I was being traditional Zergs, pulling assholes and shit. And someone, I think it was a girl or someone, we just started talking a lot more. We started getting to know each other. We started practicing a lot more, and then she introduced me to someone named Whiplash. He did a little bit of StarCraft 2, a little bit of Dota 2 casting, but before that, he used to be a pro player in StarCraft 2. Whiplash invited me to his Ventrilo server, which had a variety of people there, players, and a team guy named Frank Fields. Some insider people might know him. He worked for Riot. Now he's on to something else. And Frank was reviving his team called VT Gaming, and they essentially just needed someone to help out with start managing the players. I start managing different things and just sort of helping keeping the operations of the team going. And it's 2010, okay, so no one's really taking this team thing seriously. It's like it's just a clan basically, or it was growing out to be a little bit more serious of that. I think we had Zerker, there was Goddard, someone named Moo, there was my buddy Atero, he's from the same city as I was, and then there's Huck, which you should know. I think he's either was with us or he had just left to go to Millennial, very old French team. And that's basically how I got into esports. Was I just started helping out with the team, just started doing a little bit more, feeling like I was part of a group. That was generally the biggest motivator for me about esports, was I was starting to feel like I was part of a group or part of a community that was not only looking for people to thrive, but also for people to want to do more and be involved and self-motivated, which I was very much at the time due to the circumstances of my life, making me feel very disarmed and lost and very alone and tired. Because I remember I went to, before university, there's something called CEGEP, where I'm from in Quebec. CEGEP is basically like college or pre-college, about 2 to 3 year program. I remember that time I was very unhappy. I was playing games, 12, 14 hours, and it just wasn't fulfilling me in any meaningful way. I didn't really have any friends at the time. I had a couple old friends that I had from high school. I went to a French high school, so going to an English high school was very different for me, because it's been about 6-7 years since I spoke English. So going to an English school and then trying to integrate with people is very new for me and very difficult. So I didn't make many friends, just played games all day, trying to look for a community or a group of people I could hang out with. And then when that didn't succeed in college, I tried again at university, and yeah, that's how I got into esports.
Do you have any particular stories from, I guess, your early days of doing esports, working with esports, or doing content creation for esports that particularly stand out to you?
There's a bazillion. Oh my god, they're all horror stories, unfortunately.
Ooh. Give me the best and give me the worst.
I think the most rewarding was doing those Barcraft Montreal, those old Barcrafts. It's probably the largest Barcrafts at the time. We did it for MLG, I think Orlando and Dallas or some other one, Anaheim as well. Those were very popular. We received an email from, because at the time Huck was very popular, we received an email from his supposed uncle or cousin, and he had said he was very thankful for us cheering, and MLG was putting our Barcraft. We had about 1,000 people attending. They put our little Barcraft on the big screen for all the viewers for StarCraft 2 to watch, and they saw us all cheering, and that really felt like I really made something succeed. I was working with someone, the club manager, at least, so to speak. He was the club manager for the club. It's called Club 1234. It's kind of a shitty club, but it was a great venue to host StarCraft and to host viewing events. And him and myself and a couple other people, we built up this great viewing event that was very popular and really helped sell the idea of esports, at least in my opinion. Right. Maybe it's not a very humble view of it, but yeah.
That's particularly meaningful because Barcraft was the first of its kind in terms of seeing esports live in a kind of like a sports bar setting.
Yeah.
Or in a setting that you would imagine a traditional sport.
It gave a sense of community and a sense of it sort of broke some of the stigmatizations that esports fans were just these under basement dwelling nerds that just stayed at home and watched and cheered alone in the dark under the covers or something. It gave them a sense of community. It kind of broke. It didn't. I mean, I'm gonna sound like it's some sociological breakthrough, but in the end, it just helped push the trend and notion that esports was this up and coming big thing that gathered a variety of very dedicated fans towards gaming and towards competition and towards a unified feeling of community. That was the best feeling. The worst feelings, there's so much petty politics back then. One was I got fired from Quantic Gaming because we had someone who was in discussion with, I don't remember the organization. It's still going on too. They did a Hearthstone event a while back with Geico. But there was this Barcraft association. I forget the name. They were very good people too. And then I had my own Barcraft event, and the guy let me go because I apparently threatened his collaboration with this larger Barcraft association. So he had let me go after I was managing a team of players for about a year or so.
Wow.
That was a sad one.
In terms of your role in esports up until now, what do you think helped you the most to get you where you are?
Oh, geez, this is like a thank you message. There's so many ways to answer that question. There's either really showing a lot of humility, or there's a lot of self-congratulating ways to approach it.
You can do both.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many people I could think about and would really like to thank for their kind words and support and thoughts. You know, I met so many people throughout the years. When I worked for free for about 3 years, and then now that I'm working full time, you know, I'm still trying to find my way. You know, I'm not, you know, I haven't done anything successful, so to speak. The only thing successful I got was somehow finding a new job in esports each and every time. And so in that sense, I guess my motivation is always the sense of insecurity that I was never good enough, or that I never achieved enough, or, you know, I'm not quite there yet in terms of being some sort of representative of anything in esports or a form of success, because I'm always just trying something new. I've always worked startup jobs. I've worked like 5 different startups in the past 5 years. And then before that, I worked for free for about 2 to 3 years. So in that sense, you know, there's no one truly to thank, because there's no real place I've really actually reached. And also in that sense, you know, I've also reached somewhere farther than I've ever been before in my life. So in that sense, there's, you know, so many people to think about, you know, all my previous jobs and people who took a chance on me, and all the people from Denmark, from Korea, from Germany. The first time I was in Germany, you know, all my friends, you know, Markan, my old friends Patrick, Tim, and all that jazz. And then the community as well, you know, for, you know, because I've had a checkered past. I've been part of some bad organizations that have unfortunately done some pretty wrongful things. And, you know, somehow the community still trusts me, or they're not fully aware of, you know, where I've come from and the things I've thankfully dodged or not been too associated with, because usually it's out of my control. It's just an unfortunate situation of things. And I think overall the community's constant welcoming, you know, whether it's small or big, or acceptance of who I am or what I'm doing, and understanding of my constant need to go and do more, has always been a motivator for me, that, you know, I always feel like I'm involved no matter how much or how little I'm doing.
So as someone who's worked in and around like esports for quite a while, I think a lot of people kind of have this idea in their head that like everything before 2014 or 2015 is just a bunch of nerds in their mom's basement. Do you think this idea is accurate? Do you think like there was kind of really like a renaissance for esports around that time that kind of pushed it into legitimacy? Or do you think it's kind of been more steady than that?
I think it's steady with the emergence of technology and video games as a mainstream market and scene and foundation overall, in the sense that, you know, as older generations get older and older, and newer generations are embracing more and more technology at younger ages, the idea, of gaming is becoming more and more generally accepted as an everyday entertainment and leisure, you know, on top of movies, or on top of watching, you know, novellas or TV shows, or large 1 hour long dramedies. And so in that sense, I think esports helps set a trend that the legitimacy of competition is not just whatever's athletically viewed, but also what can be mentally established, are mentally challenged, and it also helps that Eastern cultures have already embraced gaming on a whole new professional level. You just have to look at Baduk or Go and see that there's already been quote unquote pro gamers who've been playing Go and teaching others and spreading the culture of games to younger and younger people, younger and younger generations for years, and that also helped set the legitimacy for a new era of esports, so to speak, or a new era of gaming competitions in the form of video games or esports.
I would have to totally agree. I think that's the right word for it, is legitimacy, is exactly what direction esports is going in. I think even with the international, for example, when I show people the amount of money that gets pumped into the international, when I tell people, oh yeah, the winning team this past year, they got $10 million to split among themselves. People that have no idea anything about esports, their jaws just drop. They go, people get that much money?
I think money is the easiest way to immediately convince people that this is legitimate. Because they're going to be like, there's no way that much money is in this without having some sort of legitimacy. But I also think it cuts the legs a little bit by esports being able to stand on its own. Whereas the money has to be constantly at an all-time high in order to convince naysayers or cynics into believing that this is something more than just a passion or more than just a niche field. It's mainstream. It's going to be mainstream, at least, so to speak.
Do you think the growth of franchise leagues for stuff like the NALCS this coming year or Overwatch League starting in January is going to kind of fix that a little bit? Or what's your opinion on how that's going to affect perception of esports?
Leagues, I mean, it's gonna give it a sense of more authenticity, so to speak, that it's gonna be a circuit, and that these are legitimate teams competing in a legitimate league that has a legitimate conclusion or outcome to it. And it's not just a variety of tournaments thrown around.
Yeah. As somebody who's kind of more involved with the Dota side of things these days, do you think a big franchise league or even any kind of league format is a good direction for Dota to head into?
I think I wrote about this on my site. I think my original answer was that Valve's Wild West form of tournaments. This was back in 2012, I think, or way back, or 2013 maybe.
Right around when Riot started their own league.
Yeah, it was a little bit after that. I think my claim was, and I'm overall still standing by it, is that the Wild West of Dota 2 tournaments created more opportunities and more grassroots growth for upcoming organizations, upcoming teams and players. Dota 2, in the short run, helps push for a lot of organizations and teams and players to gain an understanding on what can we expect in terms of competitions and sort of a pro gaming career can seem in terms of earnings and living style, and how many years a pro gamer can play before he can have to move on or unfortunately retire. And then in my view, the League of Legends thing is a more of a long-term outward show of what a legitimate form of regulated league would look like. And I'm not saying it's perfect. I think Dota 2 circuit as well as the league LCS style have both the pros and cons. I think they both achieve the same goal, but through different means and through different short and long-term achievements.
And this is just how Valve likes to do things as well. I mean, this is a very similar formula that works with Dota, is a very similar kind of formula that works with Counter-Strike.
So in light of those opinions, do you I think a lot of people have, even on this show, expressed the opinion that Overwatch League is taking things maybe too fast, or that Blizzard is acting in a really artificial way with how they're building up their big, $20 million buy-in league. Do you think that this is the correct direction for Overwatch to be heading in? Or what are your thoughts on Overwatch League?
I'm curious. It's very ambitious. They're very ambitious, and they collected a lot of assets, like MLG and improving Battle.net and improving Overwatch as a whole. They took a lot of people, a lot of talent from different organizations looking to find a new home. And they took a lot of curious investors and gathered them into this one league, and they put it all on Overwatch. And I think with that in mind, there's a lot of concern because they're taking a lot of key assets within the industry, or what could have been an even larger industry, and they banked it all on Overwatch. And so I could see from people on the outside why they're very concerned. But at the same time, I mean, that might be a little bit naive of me, but this many people getting in on this one particular esport that has no track record. Blizzard has a track record, good or bad, it has a track record. But Overwatch has no true esports track record, so to speak, and even their features are not completed yet. So I can see why people are uneasy, but at the same time, if this many people are jumping in with this amount of money, there must be something that we don't know, and the only way to find out is to wait and see.
For those who aren't familiar with Overwatch League, you can see like it's about 50-50 on established esports orgs and like new venture capital companies that just kind of built themselves up and started one. But like it seems to be working really hard to break away from like traditional esports is like you treat esports as its own sport. So like there's teams like Cloud9, Team Solo Mid, Optic, all this stuff who just own teams in a bunch of different games. But with Overwatch League, even the existing teams that have bought in, for those who don't know, have to adapt new names that are location specific and are Overwatch specific. Do you think it's correct for Blizzard to be moving people into like really building new identities within Overwatch, or do you think that it would be more valuable to have the general esports identities still intact?
That's probably the first question I'd ask them. What was their logic behind that? I think on the one hand, it creates a sense of independence of Overwatch from everyone else. So, you won't be inherently. So all the Immortal fans or all the TSM fans or all the Cloud9 or Fnatic fans, who are from other games and getting into Overwatch, they won't immediately make the connection. I also think that they want to follow more of the traditional national names that we see in often traditional sports.
It's kind of shocking to have been familiar with somebody like Cloud9 for so long and to suddenly see they're the London Spitfire in Overwatch League, aren't they?
Yeah, in my head, this is gonna sound childish, but in my head, it's like Blizzard doesn't want to be beholden to these large brands that have much more clout than Blizzard has in terms of audience and user base engagement and gathering. Whereas if you create a separate identity and mix them in with traditional investors, then there's a lot less leverage on the teams and more sort of shared control across the league and across the teams. But I'm speaking completely offhand. I don't think that's 100% accurate.
Yeah, I think part of it too might be like it's interesting how hard Overwatch League seems to be going towards being like traditional sports. Like they've got the Atlantic and Pacific Conference,
right,
and they've got teams tied towards like cities, and theoretically for season 2 they're going to all have these stadiums and we're going to have home and away games and all these sorts of things. Do you think not aping but like trying to mimic these traditional sports is the correct direction, or do you think the esports should kind of try to keep going off on its own like it has been?
This is a little bit beyond my depth. I think it's good to use traditional sports as a skeleton so long as you don't stick to it when it's clearly not working. There are a lot of inconsistencies between esports and traditional sports, and you can name 10 off the hand. If you want to use it as a skeleton or as a mock-up to how you want to start things, and then diverge from that once it looks like that you want to invite more international audiences from different regions like the Philippines, which we missed out on, Russia, which is missed out on, and a lot of Europe, which is also missed out on.
Brazil's getting really big too.
Yeah, exactly. Then you're gonna have to need to diverge and start accommodating appropriately for an international audience. Whereas these more national leagues like NBA and NFL, they don't exactly have the same hurdles that we face as an esports scene or up and coming foundation.
I want to talk to you a little bit about your experience at TI7, but I want to ask you a little bit about the beginning of the project. What exactly inspired it? Because right now, as it stands, your hero guides, the standard hero guides, are some of the most top-rated guides for each and every single hero. I know when I open up the guides, I immediately go and select your guides.
Oh, I'm honored. Thank you.
And I know that's the same case for a lot of people that play in game. A lot of the time, I actually find because of the simple name.
Oh yeah.
You don't have to read anything else. It's not in Russian. Everything just works, and you know exactly what you're getting out of it. How did you start? What was the initial inspiration for this project?
Oh, there's a variety of initial inspirations. The original is, of course, did you play Warcraft 3, Dota?
Oh, yeah.
Of course. Then you know about all those old Play Dota guides that they had.
Oh, yeah.
I played a lot of those. Yeah, the alt tab ones, exactly. I used those. I was the guy on the Dell PC that would just lag because he was alt tabbing to the guide to remember what he was supposed to buy at the beginning when he picked his hero. That was me. And even when I started playing Dota 2, I needed guides, or I would feel a lot more comfortable playing with guides. I didn't feel like there was a huge burden to remember every single item or every single build for the specific hero. And so that was basically my initial inspiration, was to be like all those old Play Dota guides. before me, there was something called the Alt Tab Guide. It used to be an old website where he had all the guides or all the Alt Tab versions for hero builds, and I would use that a lot when I was playing to figure out.
I remember that, yeah.
Yeah, so I used him a lot to figure out what was to be built. But the problem is this person never specified when these guides were updated, and because I didn't exactly check these guides every day, I didn't know if they were newly updated or they were not updated for a while. So it was very uncomfortable to have to look at these guides and wonder, well, is this still accurate or not to this current patch? And so when the hero builds came out, there were two striking moments that I really want to make guilt. One was I sucked really bad with a lot of heroes. I played the game since 2005, 2006, I think, and I sucked. I still suck. Holy shit, I suck so hard still. And number two was all my teammates suck. And my God, are they dumb? And how come they don't know that you're supposed to build this item? It works so well with this hero. And so that inspired me to make these hero builds. I started with, I think, originally 12. And then I got a lot of feedback for those, and they were slowly growing in popularity. I think I can open up the data for that. They were by October, so it was about, I did it in February, so October is like what, 9 months. So in 9 months, I think I already had like 30 million subscriptions. In 2000, it's gonna be 5 years in February. So in 2013, I had already 30 million subscriptions. So I knew this was something that people really desired, and I really hit a niche of demand. So I just kept going ever since then. And I was in college, so of course I had a ton of free time with nothing better to do. I was finishing my final year in university, so I was unemployed and feeling very unmotivated to do into finding any jobs. So I just kept updating them for that long. And yeah, did I end up answering your question? I kind of forgot about it.
Oh yeah, no, totally. And that was just in terms of, you know, what inspired it all. I want you to talk to me a little bit about, especially recently.
Oh, I'm sorry. It was 3 million, not 30 million.
In terms of the community, when you build, I guess, your guides or when you produce content for Dota, how much of it, especially since the project has gotten so big, given now with all the people that follow your guide, how much of an impact does the community have on what you make on your content?
In what sense? Like deciding what items and skills are...
Not necessarily deciding what items and skills, but I guess how has your process changed because of the community, because of their response to what you make?
That's a tough question. A lot has changed since 2013. 2013, I received a lot of feedback to update my guides. And then over time, I was a lot more stubborn into making changes because it needed to make sense to me. And a lot of people didn't like that I wasn't very receptive to feedback, or it would take me much longer to get to the point that they were making, just because it wasn't very well explained, or because I had some doubts or considerations. And that led to a long drought, especially from 2014 to 2016, where there wasn't a lot of feedback on the guides. A lot of the functions on the original hero build system didn't work, so that scared off a lot of hero build creators. So there wasn't any way for me to, compare my guide to other people's guides. I didn't have as many extensions of reception or feedback that I could receive. I didn't have Discord, I didn't have Reddit. I only had Liquid Dota and then whoever would message me. But I've been doing guides since 2013. And the only thing that's really changed with the community is that I received a lot less feedback, but a lot more demand and expectation, vocal demand and expectation. And it's caused me to evaluate a lot of my priorities in life, where, I'm now taking my time in terms of how I want to update the guides. I'm not doing it in 2 to 3 days like I originally used to do it, where I'm doing all-nighters and, getting sick and losing my health. I'm spending now 5 to 10 days to do it. And even then, it's pretty quick. Yeah, overall, I still get a decent amount of feedback. Some of it's good, some of it is not so hot. But I'm always appreciative of it, and it always leads me to consider things I never considered before.
And there's a bit of a feeling of kind of giving back to the community too, right?
Yeah, it's I say this before, but it's sort of a tagline of mine. But just the idea. It's all about the community dependency, even if it's a silent majority that don't say anything and are patient as ever, or don't care if it's updated or not. It's just the fact that these many people are using my guides. It's overwhelming. It's unbelievable. It's because I'm in and out of esports jobs every year. I keep a job for a year, and then either the startup falls down or I move on to something else. And so in between those 3 to 6 months where I don't have a job, I'm hardcore into the guides, and it always gives me a feeling of success, even during my deepest, worst feelings of concern, either for my financial situation or for my career direction. What am I going to do? who's going to consider me now for a job? Where am I going to find work? Am I ever going to land on my feet? And then, you know, as those doubts start to build up in my mind, I think, don't worry, you always have the guides to make you feel productive, give you not a distraction, but something to look towards, to always improve on.
You do have the guides, and even in the realm of esports, to be able to show the guides on a portfolio of some sort is that's something literally nobody else has. That's something completely unique.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They don't have any effect. Nobody. I mean, I've used it. It's on my CV. I'm not gonna lie, it's on my CV. Nobody ever asks about it. No one's ever impressed by it. No one's ever really. Yeah, no one's really taken an interest in it. I think there's a lot more interest in it now because it's a lot more recognized. But back in the day, even at 100 million or 150 million, which was 2-3 years ago, no one really cared. It was purely a passion project. There was no gain out of it. There was no value. There was no attention to it either. It was just because I loved the game and I loved the community and I always wanted to be a part of it in some shape or form. And in my mind, if I'm part of those 5 minutes where someone wants to play a Dota 2 game after a long days of work and they see my guide and they click on it and they rely on it just to enjoy their favorite game for that half an hour or 40 minutes, that's bliss for me. That's all I want. That's all I could ever ask for.
Are there any secret Torte de Lini guides that are used only by you? Incredible guides that are kept up in the Torte de Lini cellar.
Cough, Legion Commander.
Invisible by everyone else.
I don't know why nobody uses my Sir Action Slack's Omni Knight carry guide. It's great. It works. It's fantastic. I'm testing an Elder Titan core guide as well. It's not working out, but I'm testing it. It's terrible. It doesn't work. It also doesn't work, but I also do a lot of Oracle carry guides. It's garbage.
Oracle carry?
Yeah, I do Oracle carry. I go like Ags and spam the shit out of E. I go Dagon, I go Ethereal Blade, all that garbage. It's hilarious. I love it. It's the most shitty ass build ever.
Coming soon to the Dota guy.
Oh no, I would never inflict that pain.
I tried to write once a Keeper of the Light carry guide.
Oh my god!
But I knew about halfway through.
There's a guy. You should publish that guide. There's a guy at TI7. I remember this guy. Don't worry, I remember you. There's this one guy at TI7. He stopped me and he's like, "My buddy does mid carry coddle." I'm like, mid carry coddle? That's garbage. It's like, no, dude. I win 75% of my games. So he linked me his Dota buff, and he actually wins most of his game. I don't know how he does it. He just pushes the lanes incredibly hard.
Horrifying.
It's terrible. It's fucking garbage.
I know you do an update on your website every year in terms of the stats, the Hero Builds project, or a yearly.
The year-end reviews. I know what you mean.
Can we expect anything to, I guess, wow us or any sort of irregularities that we could find in your yearly update?
It's been right around this time every year, Torte de Lini. The public is waiting.
Yeah, I don't think anyone actually reads those. I think anyone who searches for them will find them, but anyone who actually actively reads them when I publish them doesn't. I think in terms of data, there's not going to be that much surprise. The growth has been substantial, more than previous years. We're looking at hitting 300 million by February. I say we, but it's mostly me. So I'm looking to hit 300 million by the end of February. That's very exciting. But that's not really that interesting. There's some new stats that released with the new hero build system in game. That's great. It shows how many games are being played using your guides. Then it shows you how many guides have been published, how many games have been within the past 30 or 40 days have been using your guides. I started calculating that. We're looking at about 73% of all subscribed users' games are the standard hero build guide. So that's very exciting to read and to learn.
That is super cool.
Yeah,
Honestly,
it's crazy, right? Cool. Yeah, thanks.
Is there any way of knowing how many games of Dota have been played where all 10 players were using a guide?
Oh God, no, definitely not. I don't think so. I don't know anyone who actually tracks. I don't even think Valve tracks that themselves. That would be really interesting to know. I would love to know that.
There's new enough professionals that I have a feeling that you could probably find somebody who's a professional now who might have started using some of your guides.
We already have some screen caps of that. I have a shot of Arteezy. He used my pudge guide once. That was really cool. Really? Yeah, then we switched it back when the talent highlight came up. So that's not so amazing.
That's funny.
Way back in 2013 or 14, we have Moon Meander, who uses my guide back in 7.02, was it? No, he shouted out in 7.02, but he used my guides back in 6.81. He used my Ursa guide for jungling video. So that's pretty cool too. No, I mean, it's not really about who uses them. It's just incredible how many people are using them and how many people have trusted them. And that's really what is the strongest motivator for me to keep going, no matter how lengthy the process is or how tiresome it's getting. You know, whenever someone tells me, you know, I always use your guides, or thanks so much for your guides, or, you know, I wouldn't be playing Dota without your guides. It's just unbelievable. You know, every time someone tells me that, it just feels so rewarding, fulfilling. And I don't know, I always get a little emotional when someone tells me that. And just, yeah, I don't know. It's great. It's the greatest feeling I've ever felt.
Do you ever get messages from people along the lines of, you know, like, Torte, you're doing it all wrong. I have a 90% win rate jungling Skeleton King.
Yeah, all the time. I mean, what can I say? You know, they'll see how I play, or they'll figure out what my MMR is. You know, when I used to play ranked way back, and they'll say, you know, you're just a shithole 2, 3, 4, 5K MMR player, and or I'm a 6K MMR player. I have 500 games of Earth Spirit, and this is how I play him, and you should totally do it like this guide. And I'll say, oh, that's great, man. But yeah, send me your feedback, and I'll look it over. And the main reason for that is not because I think my opinion is better, or you know, I think I know better, or I've been doing this for much longer or whatever. It's mainly because I try not to hold anyone's opinion above anyone else's, or even my own. So generally that's why I like to have it on a public forum, so that other people can either agree or disagree with it, or they can give an alternative opinion where they say, well, you know, that sounds like a good item, it should be included, but maybe you should consider this. And that way I have different evaluating opinions. It helps me also learn how to play these heroes, how to build these heroes, because I'm still learning. You know, I still can't play some heroes. I'm not very good with a lot of heroes. And so when someone says, oh, I'm a 6K player, this is how I play, and we should copy this build, that doesn't help me long term. That doesn't help me short term either. Like, if I copy the build, and then a month down the road there's a new style that's being played, or I'm playing the hero and I'm testing the guide, and then I'm playing the way I copied this guy or this girl's guide, there's no way for me to initially understand how to build it, or why this item is very important, or how to evaluate which item is supposed to be built, or why is he maxing this instead of that. And so I can't also write that in the guide to help others. To come back to your point, people, you know, blaming me, you know, this guide sucks. Well, I mean, I wish you gave me feedback to improve it, and I could have improved it. There's also the alternative. You know, there's no alternative, so you can either use it and suck it up, or make your own guide. You know, the system works. System's great right now. It works perfectly, almost perfectly. There's no reason why you can't create your own guide and improve it. And I rate anyone's guide who gives me them, who links me them. I rate them up, and I subscribe to them and favorite them, and I try to build them up, because I'd love for more guide makers to be in the scene.
I know I have a little bit of a taste of this life. I have currently the top-rated Tinker guide on Dota Fire that I made back when.
Oh shit, really?
Yeah, even though I haven't updated it since 6.83, it's still the top voted.
Oh boy, that's a little bit troublesome.
So basically, we have the top two guide makers here today.
Really, we do.
We're about equal here.
So you're the two that's keeping it up.
Yeah, I'm the guy that sends you all those messages. I have like 10 accounts.
I just message both of you and tell you you're garbage every now and then. I don't really make anything.
What do you what are the changes in 7.07 that I guess were the most jarring for you, especially as a person that writes guides? What are the biggest changes in your guides? What did Ice Frog do to you?
Man, this is the largest changes. This is the most changes I've ever done in the history of ever. Besides rewriting all the text for 108 guides, back in the day. This was about 1,232 changes, which is the most I've ever done. I think the previous one was about 800 back in 7.01, 7.0. It took me about 70 hours, so I'm pretty good. I even live streamed the whole thing, so everyone can see I worked those hours. So I'm dead beat. I think the biggest changes that really confused me were the inclusion of Aeon Disc, which I was very Nullifier and Aeon Disc, which was a very having a lot of difficulty deciding. And the last one I think was tiny. I had two tiny builds. I had a tiny core middle build and a tiny safe lane build, and I had kept those because I knew eventually there would be a new tiny new way of playing tiny, and I'm hoping it becomes more popular is tiny off lane, more of a ganking nuker tiny, you know, the way he was played before. And so I'm hoping that becomes more and more popular, and then so I can bandwagon the traditional way it's played in and adjust my build accordingly. But yeah, changing the tiny build to an offlane version was very challenging, very different for me, and I'm hoping it plays out well. Viper 2, this is a run-on sentence, but Viper 2 was very interesting because, once again, Viper has all these abilities that you wish were all maxed at the same time because they're all very useful. And so building that hero is a lot of fun.
Do you think, because right now both Tiny and Morphling, their win rates sit around 44%. Do you think that's because of the hero design, or do you think people just don't know how to use them right now?
Oh, Tiny and Morphling, really? They're that low? Let me check. Oh, geez, look at that. Yeah, I think people underestimate just how penetrative or how much trickle down builds work from the up down. So guides do play a part in forming the way people play, but I think watching esports players, watching professional players play these heroes and show how this hero fits into the meta helps pave the way for how these heroes are built. It helps hasten the process for how it's figured out. And I think there's someone who said that. Is it Chessie? If someone Midwin? No, someone said that, where esports with how frequent patches were being released and how quickly they're being figured out, it's creating this constant motion of change for Dota and patches and hero builds and the way heroes are changed in each patch. So I think the win rate for these heroes is especially low just because they haven't been played enough in mainstream tournaments. Yeah, I think that's the answer. I think it's because it hasn't been played enough in mainstream tournaments, and so it hasn't been imitated and replicated to the lower leagues or lower levels of players and player pools.
So the answer is, as always, that everyone is garbage.
Well, I mean, we also accept that. That's why I make the guides.
Are you surprised, I guess, from the beginning when you started until now at how big the Dota 2 standard hero project has gotten?
I'm a little bit of a traditionalist when it comes to, in the sense that I firmly believe if someone works hard and works consistently, that they'll always be rewarded. And it's not going to be massive popularity. It's going to be a sense of fulfillment and sense of achievement, no matter how big or small it is. And so I am surprised about how large it is, but I had always hoped that there would be a subset group of people that would enjoy it. If it's like my live stream, okay? I try to stream every day, every weekday I can. And, I have about, I don't know, I don't look at the numbers, but I don't think 10, 15 viewers if I'm lucky. And it makes me feel good. I feel so happy talking with people and getting to play the game and them telling me how to improve or what to do. And for the guides, it's the same thing. It's 300 million, almost 300 million now. It's 280 million actually. If it was only 100, I'd be okay with it. I wouldn't put as much effort. Not because these people don't deserve the best quality, but because I feel like the pressure to provide that many guides at that level of persistent updates wouldn't be as appreciated as it would at 280 million as it would be at 10 million. It would be as vocally appreciated, but I wouldn't feel that much constant pressure and demand from people, asking, where's the guides? When are you going to update? Are you going to update soon? You should update this guide. This guide's out of date. Da-da-da.
Please, yeah. Torta. I have a 10% win rate. You need to update the guides.
Yeah. Oh, I get that one a lot. I can't play the build. I can't play the patch until you update the guides. That makes me a little bit sad because I wish they would just enjoy, just have fun. But if they can only have fun with the guides, that's that's an absolute honor. I don't think I could ever.
Just have fun. Buy Ags on Tiny. Do you have any big regrets, I guess, in your guides? Like, do you ever wish you could just take back the fact that you considered Legion Commander Jungle to be correct?
Oh, there's so many regrets.
We are esports shock jocks. Hey Torta, remember when you did Legion Commander Jungle?
It's still there. It's still there. I don't know what you're talking about. It's still there. It has 8 million games played. It's terrible.
That is sickening.
Torta, remember when you were wrong?
In terms of regrets, I regret adding so many guys. I wish I kept it one per hero.
One per hero.
I wish now, because I'm such a perfectionist, I want to have every single build for every single style of play for a hero. But at 158, I'm exhausted. I can't keep up anymore. I'm working 14 hours a day with my current job and my personal passion project. So I can't, 158 builds, definitely my limit. I would definitely delete some if I could.
So what's your daily life been over the past couple of weeks? Like, wake up to go to sleep. What is the life of Torte de Lini?
Oh man, during TI7 I worked Oh man, I worked TS7 and then I did work all the way to Europe because my team was working in Europe. So that was a crazy schedule. So today is pretty hectic. Today I woke up at 8. I started work with my company. So I woke up at 8. I started my traditional job. I worked till 4. And then I do my live stream. I'm trying to do live streaming as not as a secondary income, but just as another passion project where I can test builds and interact with people and play with people hopefully as well. And I just like being with people. And so yeah, and then so from 4 to 7 I do live stream, and then I continue whatever emails I missed. Because I work with Russians, and Russians like to work until late in the evening for them. They're about 1-2 hours ahead of me. So I answer all the emails and all the inquiries that they have. And then I also answer any hero build issues that people will have, or, this podcast, for example, is something I had to eat. I was talking to you guys before about eating dinner while we were testing our mics and everything. So, unfortunately I have to skip some meals to fit it all in one day. So after this, it'll be about 10 p.m. I'll wrap up 1 or 2 emails that I probably missed. And then I'll go to bed around 11, fall asleep around 12, and then wake up at 8 again, and then do it all over again. I try and update the hero builds either on weekends or in the evenings whenever I can fit it in. Usually it's not that bad when it's between patches, but when a patch just came out, the first 2 weeks, it's like, it could be up to 8 hours of work a day if just checking things or reviewing feedback or watching matches or testing builds or seeing if this works or that works or observing matches, public matches or whatever. So yeah, it's a little bit, I can feel the wrinkles upon wrinkles just below my eyes.
What direction do you think that Dota is going in general? I mean, do you think it'll have the same kind of longevity as some other esports that we've seen?
Oh boy. I don't think I am looking forward to the results of this circuit. I'm concerned that with this many major minor tournaments that there's going to be a lot of player participation, a lot of competition, but I think it's just too many tournaments, and either viewership will suffer or organizations will feel like their involvement is not as worthwhile as if they went on to other more up and coming games like PUBG, or for example, but even PUBG is kind of, it's up in the air.
There's a lot going on.
I don't know about PUBG
right now.
Yeah.
I keep hearing stuff about PUBG as an esport. What do you think of PUBG as an esport?
They got a lot of work to do. That's all I'll say. As a game, they got a lot of work to do. And if the game is not soundly appreciated, then it's either subject to competition, which is another fear I feel they'll have to consider, or it's going to be subject to a quick downfall after its very hyped rise.
With StarCraft, for example, as an esport, I wanted to ask your opinion a little bit. In our first episode, Suns fan said, he said in a Team Dignitas interview actually in 2012 that he believed that Dota was getting up there, but that it would never surpass StarCraft 2 in popularity. On our show,
okay.
He said that he had no idea he didn't even remember that he said that. He said he had no idea what he was talking about back then, and that StarCraft 2 went absolutely nowhere. What do you think about that in general, given that you have experience in StarCraft 2 management?
Let's start this feud now. Let's get as involved as we can.
Torte de Lini versus Suns fan.
I've yet to meet him. I wanted to meet him at TS7, but I've yet to, unfortunately. To your question, I think, I don't know. It's a lot of extenuating factors that led to its what's the word I'm looking for when it's plateaued. Yeah, I think there's a lot of things that led to its sense of plateau, and I don't think there's anything really, the variety of factors, both internal and external, that led to its plateauing. Also, the genre itself has also been trailing off. So for StarCraft 2 to still keep going now is pretty impressive, and it's not just going, small tournaments. It's going on, still a rather large scale. It might not have the viewership that, these more popular games have that are much more popular with newer generations. But I think newer generations is a little bit of a faux pas claim because Dota is old as hell. But I think RTS as a whole, with its decline and the lack of new titles coming out that sort of match the excitement and interest of StarCraft 2, I think StarCraft 2 maintaining its viewership and popularity and player participation, I think it's fine. I mean, I'm sure everyone hopes they wish it was bigger. Would have been bigger if in a different reality or dimension where RTS games were still very popular. Maybe, I don't know. But I really don't have any stance really about StarCraft 2. I'm happy where it's at. I'm happy that the people who still work in StarCraft 2 are satisfied in what they're doing, that they're still getting paid full time to do it, and they still show the same enthusiasm that they had from the beginning. And I hope it keeps going for a long time. Or I hope there's a StarCraft 3 that gets everyone excited once again.
From your management position, I guess, related to StarCraft 2, would you ever think of going into any sort of management position within Dota?
The issue with being a player manager in Dota is that, and I'm speaking completely out of turn because the players I manage in StarCraft 2 are completely different to how things are working much more smoothly, mind you, in Dota 2 and in eSports today. I would love to manage a team in StarCraft 2. I'm in Dota 2, StarCraft 2 as well. But in Dota 2, in the sense that the one thing I miss now that I'm not a player manager in any sense or form or part of any affiliated team is that I don't really have a team to really root for. Of course I'm going to root for my favorite personal team, but when you're managing a team of players or you're managing a specific players, and you're watching them perform, there's this really, I don't know, there's some sort of string that tugs at you every time you see him win or every time you see him lose, and it really calls into your sense of camaraderie and attachment to the team, to the brand, and to the players that I kind of miss now that I'm on the outside.
You don't quite get the same thing as an observer as you would on the bench, I guess.
Yeah, so to speak. Yeah.
You wrote a lot on your blog about your experience at TI7.
Yeah.
And that you were there. Can you tell me a little bit about your experience, who you talked to? I've never been, so I'm just really curious as to what the whole experience is like at the Key Arena.
Oh man, you gotta go next time. That was a dream come true. I think that was on my bucket list. If I had a bucket list, that's on my bucket list right there. Yeah, that was a dream come true. I can't, it was just I got to meet all the people I admired and all the people I thought were great and that I was speaking to online. I got to meet all these talented people, both on the outside and on the inside. I got to meet Valve. I got to meet, all these great people from Valve. People who used my guides as well. That's just, I don't even know how to describe that. It's just unbelievable. I got to meet so many fans. I would be like, okay, who wants to meet? And then there'd be like a bazillion people who hit me up, wanted to meet up, and so I made this.
Oh, that's fantastic. Yeah, that's a great.
It's feeling. Really, it's so cool, and I ran into so many people who knew who I was, and they're like, "Oh, I love your guys," and why do you do this? They would jokingly say like, "Oh, why do you build it like this? Why do you do that?" And that was awesome as well. I took as many pictures as I can so I can, remember them forever, and I would message them all on either Reddit or on Discord or WhatsApp or whatever, and I'd be like, okay, what seat are you at? I have a break between this and this match. What seat are you at? And then I would run over to the other side of the freaking arena looking for them, just hoping to get a chance to talk with them and find out what was happening and how they're enjoying the event and where they're from and what their name is and what they're studying and all that jazz. I got to be at the stage when Team Liquid won. I got to be behind the scenes when I saw teams lose and how they cope with that loss. That's just such a rare sighting. It's so unbelievable. I got to be downstairs in production room. I got to see some of the secrets behind production. I've done a few event organizations back in the day, but this was like a whole nother level of video production and the way they work together and the way they practice and what's those rehearsals. That was also a rare sighting. I don't know. It fulfilled so many things I was so interested in knowing and being curious about, and I hope I get to go again. And this time I think I'll be a little more forward in the sense of my personality. I'll be a little bit less self-critical about myself and less shy and less
or passive.
Yeah, I was very passive, and I would, I was that guy. I was sort of that Woody Allen kind of guy where I would put myself down just to sort of get a laugh. In reality, I was, I didn't really like the way I was showing myself, and it didn't really invite anyone to get to know me or be with me, but rather just to laugh when they're with me and then move on with their day. And so I'm hoping I can create stronger bonds with people, not just the talent team, but also with the community as a whole.
I liked that you included in your blog the photo of the Dota in the park. Everybody getting to have a picnic watching Dota outside.
Isn't that the coolest thing ever? If I was rich, that's what I would do. I would have like a public lawn, and I would invite. I mean, this sounds a little bit like Michael Jackson, but I would invite all the kids and adults to come out to my lawn and watch fucking esports games, not just Dota 2, Counter-Strike, or you have like LAN parties, big ass screen Mario Kart games. That'd be sick. That'd be awesome.
Michael Cohen's Neverland.
Yeah. Oh God. I wouldn't call it Neverland. I don't know why I understand the point of Netherland, but I would call it something a little more appealing and less fairy tale.
Tell me a little bit about, you said you met a couple of the Moonduck guys. What was that like?
I met Zari, I met Annie, I met Trent. I always wanted to meet Trent because he's a fellow Canadian. And Trent is exactly what everyone dreams of. Trent's awesome. Annie's awesome. So is Iori. And, I met Slacks as well, which was fantastic. I knew Slacks from Kiev Major, so having to work, we didn't really work, but having to hang out with him, and we even played our first Dota 2 games together at TI7. Those are, they're small for him, but they're pretty great for me. I had a lot of fun playing those Dota 2 games, just fooling around. It was a lot of fun. Yeah, I like the Moonduck guys a lot. I bonded more with the Moonduck guys than the BTS guys, but it's not really. Yeah, it's just a fan and admiring great talent.
I want to wrap up really quickly. I want to ask if you have any other, I guess, because TI is it's such a unique experience. If you have any other standout moments from TI that you'd like to share.
TI7 playing Jackbox with Day 9 was hilarious. That guy is.
Oh, that's cool.
I think meeting Day 9. That's the second time. That's actually second. This is very funny. But I actually met a lot of the talent guys for Dota 2 already back in 2015. Most of them didn't remember me, which is fine. I mean, I wasn't really anyone. I was working for a magazine company at the time, doing eSports coverage. Then I met all the guys. I met a lot of guys there. They didn't remember me, and then when I met them again in Kiev, some of them didn't remember me, which is fine. Mainly because, I didn't properly introduce myself back then, and even this time I didn't properly introduce myself at that time as well. And, if someone disappears for 2 years that you meet briefly for 5 minutes, are you going to remember his freaking name or what he does? Or
unless you're Gabe.
Yeah, unless you're... Yeah, that guy has a memory of a...
Yeah, it was the memory of an elephant.
Yeah, I was going to say I was going to say camel, but I don't think camel was the right word. Yeah, that guy remembers everyone. So memorable TI7 memories. I met Day 9 for the second time. I met him in 2012, and I met him again this time. But this time under different circumstances because he's been shouting out my guides for a while now, and that has to be the coolest experience. If I could blush, you would see me blush. I was probably blushing when it first happened. I was like, holy shit, what is happening here? The guy who taught me StarCraft 2 is using my guides. Oh, holy shit. And then Purge.
After this...
Sorry, go ahead.
After this episode, for people that we haven't contacted yet, Day 9 is on the top of our list, right under Ice Frog and Aeon 64.
Oh, jeez. Jesus. I hope he comes on. He's exactly how you see him.
That makes me happy. I'm glad that he is.
He hasn't, I met him in 2012, so I met him again in 2017, and he's exactly how he was 5 years ago. Only difference is he didn't give me a back rub like he did in 2012. That was a good back rub. I like that back rub.
Is there a better back rub that you can get than one from a major esports competition?
I mean, I would have to pay a lot for it, but yeah, there are some.
In unrelated news, future episodes of The High Ground will be filmed in person.
Yeah, playing Jackbox with Day 9 and all the guys hanging out there, hanging out with Owen, hanging out with Slacks and Surin and all that. Other memorable memories. Meeting Bruno was great. Even when we also played some games during the off hours. Pissed him off a few times because of how shitty I am.
Bruno is always someone that I wanted to meet, especially just because he's there's 3 total Argentines in esports.
Yeah.
There's one of them. I don't think he plays Dota anymore. I think now he plays Overwatch. I forget his name. And then there's Bruno. And then I think the last one is on Infamous. It's Pepito.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. There's 3 total Argentines, and one of them is Bruno Statsman.
He's the most memorable.
I wish he was still around. I really enjoyed Bruno.
I do too.
That was the one thing that I took a little bit of a break from Dota between, I think, TI3 and TI5. And that was the one thing that I was disappointed about was no Bruno.
I'm disappointed there's no more Bruno, but I'm also very happy he's found something that he loves to do, and it's very stable, and it's close to what he did in his education and his work. Other memorable memories. One Valve developer, actually a couple, but this one specifically stopped me in between matches and told me specifically how he loved my guys, was very thankful for them, and that that his brother uses them as well. That he introduced Dota 2 to his brother using my guides, and I won't say who his name is, but that also just touched me unbelievably. That was, I never thought that would ever happen.
Was it Ice Frog?
No, it wasn't. It was not. Jesus. It was his brother. Are you paying attention at all? No, but yeah, that was an unbelievable moment. And then after TI7, I was working with a developer or a couple developers, improving the hero build system that's now in game. Developing that with this person was also a huge honor because of how long he's been at Valve, the famous games he's worked on, and just how knowledgeable and easygoing he was to work with. And
do you have any final thoughts that you'd like to leave our listeners with? Just things you'd like to close with before we get to the end of our podcast?
Thanks a lot. Just thanks for having me on. I love.
Oh yeah, of course.
I mean,
thanks for being on.
I mean, who doesn't love talking about themselves? Except really, really depressed people. But even then, this always gives them a moment of.
Oh no, I still like talking about myself.
Oh yeah, no, this is actually a podcast about you, and yet I still somehow find some excuse to talk about myself in this podcast. So.
Well, you have to balance it out. You have to balance it out a little. You can't stroke
that.
my ego that much. Come on.
Still, thank you very much for being on. It was really a pleasure to have you on, and it was great to be able to pick your mind about not only the guides, which is what I guess a majority of the Dota community knows you for, but in addition about your experience in esports and about your experience in TI7, which was very interesting to know about.
I guess my final thoughts is basically, thanks for everyone. Of course, thanks for everyone who I've met, who I've spoken to, who I've not just in Dota 2, just in esports throughout my career. Thanks to those who gave me a chance in life, got me to move around the world, Germany, Denmark, Los Angeles, back to Germany, Holland, Moscow, Korea, all those great organizations and people. Yeah, just thanks for trusting me. Thanks for enjoying my work. If you want to support me, just you can do it in any way possible. Just watch my channel on Twitch or read our work that I do with eSports at cybersport.com. We do a lot of great esports content there. I really suggest it. Yeah, and I really appreciate this time for speaking. I really had a lot of fun.
Well, for anybody curious, you can support Torte de Lini on Patreon.
Oh, yeah, I have a Patreon.
Pledge your support to Torte de Lini on Patreon. It's patreon.com/Torte. That's TORTE.
Yeah, or just give me feedback on the guides. That's fine.
Or just give him feedback on the guides. Or you can follow him on Twitch.
Oh, yeah.
You can go on Twitch. His Twitch is twitch.tv/Torte de Lini. Exactly how it's spelled in the title of this podcast, except all one word.
Thanks for the mentions.
Yeah, absolutely. Torte de Lini, thank you very much for being on our show.
Yeah, thanks so much. I hope my answers don't come back to bite me in the ass, but I'm always open to talk about them again. I hope I come back soon.